Well, Senator Sanders, the first question to you. Mayor Bloomberg is pitching himself as a centrist who says he's best positioned to win in November. Why is your revolution a better bet?
In order to beat Donald Trump, we're going to need the largest voter turnout in the history of the United States. Mr. Bloomberg had policies in New York City of stop and frisk, which went after African American and Latino people in an outrageous way. That is not a way you're going to grow voter turnout. What our movement is about is bringing working class people together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, around an agenda that works for all of us and not just the billionaire class. And that agenda says that maybe, just maybe, we should join the rest of the industrialized world, guarantee health care to all people as a human right, raise that minimum wage to a living wage of $15 an hour, and have the guts to take on the fossil fuel industry, because their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet and the need to combat climate change. Those are some of the reasons we're the strongest campaign to defeat Donald Trump.
So Mayor Bloomberg, can Senator Sanders beat President Trump, and how do you want to respond to what else he said?
I don't think there's any chance of the senator beating President Trump. You don't start out by saying, I've got 160 million people, I'm going to take away the insurance plan that they love. That's just not a ways that you go and start building the coalition that the Sanders camp thinks that they can do.
We're not going over this piece by piece. So as you see Bloomberg begin his little monologue, obviously he is not used to this. You're seeing him dance around. He's stumbling in his words. We could say that tonight, his debate virginity was taken from him, and he was a little slow in its performance.
I don't think there's any chance whatsoever. And if he goes and is the candidate, we will have Donald Trump for another 4 years, and we can't stand that.
So I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history.
So now he's becoming even more stressed. He's in prayer with his hands. He's literally twisting around in a tiny little circle, like he's a pendulum as he dances. Extreme stress. God, it's rough being a girl.
We shouldn't have to choose between one candidate who wants to burn this party down and another candidate who wants to buy this party out. Look, we can do better.
Senator Sanders, are you polarizing?
If speaking to the needs and the pain of a long-neglected working class is polarizing, I think you got the wrong word. What we are trying finally to do is to give a voice to people who, after 45 years of work, are not making a nickel more than they did 45 years ago. We are giving a voice to people who are saying we are sick and tired of billionaires like Mr. Bloomberg seeing huge expansions of their wealth while 500,000 people sleep out on the street tonight.
And that's
so what we are saying, Pete, is maybe it's a time for the working class of this country to have a little bit of power in Washington rather than your billionaire campaign contributors.
All right, look, first of all, look, my campaign is fueled by hundreds of thousands.
I think that's hilarious right there. So they're all attacking each other. It makes great TV. They actually got views. They came out swinging. And as Bernie wraps up this little dig, you see the jovialness in his face. And it's a friendly smile. Like, ha, 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 I burned you. Where's my burn now? It's like the memo went out. Look, nobody watches this shit, but they really like it when we fight. So, like, these are the jabs that we get to go on, and we're going to make great TV. But Bloomberg, we're going all in.
Senator Warren, you were all in on Medicare for All, and then you have since came up with a transition plan. Is it because of the impact on unions?
So I want to be clear. I've been to the culinary unions, healthcare facilities. They're terrific. You don't want to shut them down. You want to expand them. You want to see them all across Nevada and all across this country. But we need to get everybody's healthcare plan out here. Mayor Buttigieg really has a slogan that was thought up by his consultants to paper over a thin version of a plan that would leave millions of people unable to afford their health care. It's not a plan, it's a PowerPoint. And Amy's plan is even less. It's like a Post-it note, insert plan here. Bernie has started very much, has a
I think those two expressions from her little tiny attack just say so much. We got Bernie sitting there smiling when he did his attack. And now we've got these two going, ha, ha, ha. What? This is a joke.
If I go back and look at my time in office, the one thing that I'm really worried about, embarrassed about, was how it turned out with stop and frisk. When I got into office, there were 650 murders a year in New York City. And I thought that my first responsibility was to give people the right to live. That's the basic right of everything. And we adopted a policy which had been in place, the policy that all big police departments use of stop and frisk. What happened, however, was it got out of control. And when I discovered that we were doing too many stop and frisks, we cut 95% of it out. And I've sat down with a bunch of African-American clergy and business people to talk about this, to try to learn. I've talked to a number of kids who'd been stopped. And I was trying to understand how we change our policies so we can keep the city safe, because the crime rate did go from 50% down to 300. And we have to keep the lid on crime, but we cannot go out and stop people indiscriminately.
Mayor, thank you. Let me go to Vice President Biden on this. You want to respond to that?
Obviously, he's still getting through his virginity, because as the other ones do not allow the panel to interrupt them and stop them from talking, Bloomberg allows for the individuals to stop him from talking. He's had a very choreographed answer, which would lead one to believe these are things that he knew prior to getting on the stage.
But Mayor
It would save me a lot of money.
Let me ask you about something else. Several former employees have claimed that your company was a hostile workplace for women. When you were confronted about it, you admitted making sexually suggestive remarks, saying, quote, "That's the way I grew up." In a lawsuit in the 1990s, according to the Washington Post, one former female employee alleged that you said, quote, "I would do you in a second." Should Democrats expect better from their nominee?
Let me say a couple things, and if I can have my full minute and a quarter, thank you. I have no tolerance for the kind of behavior that the Me Too movement has exposed. And anybody that does anything wrong in our company, we investigate it, and if it's appropriate, they're gone that day. But let me tell you what I do in my company and my foundation and in city government when I was there. In my foundation, the person that runs it's a woman. 70% of the people there are women. In my company, lots and lots of women have big responsibilities. They get paid exactly the same as men. And in my in City Hall, the top person, my deputy mayor, was a woman, and 40% of our commissioners were women. I am very proud of the fact that about 2 weeks ago, we were awarded. We were voted the the best place to work, second best place in America. If that doesn't say something about our employees and how happy they are, I don't know what does.
Senator Warren, you've been critical of Mayor Bloomberg on this issue.
Yes, I have. And I hope you heard what his defense was. I've been nice to some women. That just doesn't cut it. The mayor has to stand on his record. And what we need to know is exactly what's lurking out there. He has gotten some number of women, dozens, who knows, to sign non-disclosure agreements, both for sexual harassment and for gender discrimination in the workplace. So, Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
There's a lot of stress in that as she's talking to him. The multiple blinkings, the lack of movement. And then as he does move, he goes up. He's trying to get away.
We have a very few non-disclosure
Then you see the shifting of the weight. Like, okay, how do I approach this?
agreements.
How many is
Let me
that?
finish.
How many is that?
None of them accused me of doing anything other than maybe they didn't like a joke I told. And let me put, there's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them. They signed those agreements, and we'll live with it.
So wait, when you say it is up to, I just want.
And you see a big swallow at the end of that. I would say there's meat there. Don't know what it is, but there's meat there. And at least he's starting to see things like, let me finish. This debate is so boring and so predictable.
To be clear, some is how many? And when you say they signed them and they wanted them, if they wish now to speak out and tell their side of the story about what it is they allege, that's now okay with you? You're releasing them on television tonight?
You see that thing he was doing as she's talking? He's put his hands like a little teepee and he's moving it up and down. He's already got his response in mind. He's waiting for an opening because in his mind, the debate is supposed to be orderly. I speak, then the moderators say when you speak, and then I speak, and then the moderators say when you speak. And it goes back and forth. Nobody interrupts anyone. If I raise my hand, I get called on. It's the perfect kindergarten class. Unfortunately, that is not how this debate is working. It's like a grade school fight with no moderators, no referee. It's just whoever can scream and shout the loudest is the one that gets to speak. Sometimes they listen.
Senator? No.
Is that right?
You also hear as he's trying to speak now, you see the mouth movement and the body's coming forward and back with the breathing. He wants to answer. But he's also, not only is he doing the role play of how he feels the debate should run, he's waiting for the audience to be quiet so that he may speak. So the audience now has to be in the rules as well. Audience doesn't get to speak. It needs to be quiet so that I may speak. He has no idea what he's doing. No idea.
Senator, the company and somebody else, in this case, a man or a woman, or could be more than that, they decided when they made an agreement that they wanted to keep it quiet for everybody's interest. They signed the agreements, and that's what we're going to live with.
I'm sorry. No, the question is, are the women bound by being muzzled by you? And you could release them from that immediately. Because understand, this is not just a question of the mayor's character. This is also a question about electability. We are not going to beat Donald Trump with a man who has who knows how many non-disclosure agreements and the drip, drip, drip of stories of women saying they have been harassed. Okay.
So then you see an eye roll because instead of barking back like everyone else has been doing, they've been barking back or they've been raising their hand or trying to interrupt. He's playing the rules. I'm going to give ugly eye rolls, but I don't know how to interrupt because that's against the rules in his little mind. And part of that has to do with he doesn't really know how to respond. These are murky waters. This was like watching a kindergarten class with no teacher present, and they were doing their own mock trial on who gets to be teacher. And that's about all we're doing for this nonsense.
If you'd like to learn more about analysing body language, there is a video course available on Mandy's website for Gold subscribers, where Mandy teaches more about her techniques of deception detection. There's also other content such as the Crime series and Interesting Minds series, available to both Gold and Silver subscribers.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.